Pass the SAVE Act, where President Trump is going to hit the button on the Insurrection Act. He's going to call in the military. He's going to do what I think he should have done anyway, and arrest 50,000 people, have some military tribunals, and push things across the finish line. That is not hyperbole. That is not Q. That is just simply what has to happen. Don't cut. No. You can ask me any question. But I went and sat with Victor Marx. Nothing that he said made sense. Nothing. Listen, you have a guy with so many skeletons in the closet that he can't win. When you talk about, his wife did a podcast and talked about Victor Marx once a year kicks holes in walls and goes maniac on the family. When you have people like his daughter or son that are basically distancing themselves from Victor Marx, I'm talking about Shiloh Marx. Go look it up. Shiloh says nothing about his dad, ever.
Raises a lot of questions, especially when it comes back to that connection with Israel and once again the Christian Zionistic viewpoint of this nation, that they've been led to believe that somehow we have this vested biblical interest in Israel when they don't even believe the gospel, right? And on top of that, the nation of Israel, the nation state of Israel, is hardly Jewish.
Yeah, so that leads me to, something that I think is really important for you to understand. And that is, where does it say in the Bible that those that bless Israel are blessed? Where does it say it? It doesn't say it at all. It says who blesses his people. Well, who are his people?
His followers.
What did Jesus say? That you cannot come
through the Father except through me.
That's a curse, by the way, if you think about it. Right? Because they don't believe in Jesus. So how in the world do you get to God if you can't go through Jesus? If you don't believe in Jesus. I
agree with you.
Right?
In fact, the entire idea of Christian Zionism spits in the face of the gospel. It says that the gospel is not necessary. It says that Yeshua is not necessary for salvation. It says that, basically spits in the face of the sacrifice of Yeshua on the cross.
Yes. So I look at
it's absurd.
So I look at this and I think about, look, there are good, God-fearing Jews, right? But the second that you start adhering to the Talmud, you lost me already. Right? You lost me. I'm out. It doesn't mean that I can't love them where they are, not where I want them to be, but I certainly am not going to be controlled and treated like we have to be a captured nation. Right now, we are slaves to a nation that is not even on this continent, right? And it is not the Jewish people. It is this group of godless people that hide behind the Jewish faith even in order to basically say that if you don't like what I'm saying, that you're anti-Semitic.
So, but once again, we're back to Trump and kind of placating this Christian Zionistic viewpoint. Is that a part of the chess game? Is that some of the stuff just doesn't make sense?
Yeah, so it's not supposed to make sense. And I'm not sure that I have an answer for you that would satisfy your curiosity.
Well, I'm not looking for answers, just more questions.
Yeah, it creates a lot of questions. And frankly, I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East, a lot of time in Africa. I've seen a lot of things that don't make sense to me. But President Trump is going to write his history very clearly in the next 6 months, right? And because we cannot go into an election where the people have no voice again, they don't have an appetite for it. And we are not looking at Democrat versus Republican. There's a shift happening right now, Jason, that is unbelievable and it's undeniable. And that is that the leaders are the people who have betrayed us, right? We can see it clearly that they are the ones that betrayed us. And they are Democrats, they are Republicans, they are independents, they are at every level of government. They're the judges. I haven't even started talking to you about judges yet. They're running a criminal cartel. Basically, they're the enforcers of this radical ideology. And they're not held responsible because they have complete qualified immunity against anything that they say or do. So the victims become the people inside of our community. So look, we got a lot of problems to resolve, but I'm going to tell you right now, with or without President Trump, there is going to be a Julius Caesar moment, right? And that Julius Caesar moment is going to rip the cover off the ball, so to speak, and put us in a place where dads are done having their kids get molested. Pastors are being exposed for the bad things that they are doing by saying that You got to stand with Israel, because people are starting to read the Bible. They're starting to understand that if I look at it from this thin of a lens, you're likely to get a different outcome. But if you read the entire Bible, then you wouldn't have that theology, right? So there's some, and I believe, by the way, Charlie Kirk was killed because he was starting to get to the bottom of all this.
I agree 100% with you. Who's Erika Kirk?
Yeah, the thought of the mother of my children being complicit in my own murder, I would find just devastatingly. I mean, just it's almost too much to actually think about. I've been married 24 years. I'm hoping my wife doesn't come up with that idea now that she knows about Erika Kirk. She's like, I think maybe let's take this guy out.
So we posted a video when Pastor Hibbs, Jack Hibbs, attacked all the guys speaking out against Christian Zionism. And I got a really interesting comment the other day. I think you'll enjoy this. The comment said, "My online pastor was spot on that podcast. May God continue to bless and protect him." Like, my online pastor, what have we come to nowadays?
Well, look, this has been my problem with influencers, right? So I think that we have created an environment of kabuki theater where we have people that have let's be honest, they don't have, I look at most of the influencers that are out there that talk, Jason, most of them common sense is not so common, right? And I've known these guys for the last 6 years, and I'll have conversations with them about, why do you feel this way? And they'll attack me and say, Joe, you need to stand down on the Israel issue. And I was like, well, who told you to call me? And like, well, they're our biggest ally. Where? Show me. Allies, they share interests and they feed off each other, and there's some symbiotic relationship that leads to a good outcome for both parties. Tell me where that is. And he couldn't answer it. This is a guy with 6 million followers, right? And I go, bro, I'm not your Zion bro. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm not your guy.
Well, you just look at half these Middle East countries. I mean, it was less than 50 years ago that Iran was a prosperous nation that wasn't overrun by terrorists. We created that. We created this with Israel and created what we presently have now, which is a Middle East that's in utter chaos.
So you do know that the country of Israel had their government collapse 6 times over an 8-year period of time.
Yep.
Right? But the people of Israel, I need to say this to you because I think it's important for you to understand. Most countries around the world are captured. The people are captured by a power structure that basically informs them that you're our slave. We can look at the UK. You're not allowed to have hate speech. Can't talk about this invasion that's happening on their own soil. They've been stripped of their rights to carry weaponry or protect themselves. You saw a 12-year-old have to stand up with a hatchet and stop a perpetrator from sexually abusing her, and the court arrested her, right? So there's a backwards thing happening inside of our leadership, and Israel faces the same thing. The people are largely held hostage in Israel as well. And if you talk to any Hasidic Jew, they are completely anti this Zionist or movement that's happening inside of their leadership structure. So I just want to be careful that we don't. This is kind of like saying, well, the gang members shot a bunch of people, so all black people are bad. Or these Muslims over here, their radicals keep blowing themselves up, all Muslims are bad. I think we have to start dealing with things more on an idealistic viewpoint. And if you believe this, you're not on our island, right? You need to step over there with the bad people, right? So, and if we do that collectively, you're going to find that there's going to be a melting pot over here that idealistically realigns with what the American dream or the American spirit truly was designed to be.
Yeah, I think we have this idea in this country that if you disagree with Christian Zionism or you disagree with the nation state of Israel, then you hate all Jews. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate Jews. Just because I don't want LGBTQ teachings in my classroom does not mean I hate gay people. right? And that's what the left has framed. That's what the media has framed us as. You go back to the war in Ukraine. It's like clear and obvious that Zelensky doesn't actually want to win that war. I don't know why everybody thinks that, we need to back Ukraine. They're going to peacefully give it over to Russia to make it look like a war.
So March of 2022, I said, now I know a lot about Ukraine, and I know a lot about foreign policy. I've been in 65 nations in that 6.5 years that I was overseas. And I had seen stuff and been at tables that I had no business being at, right? Kind of ridiculous, actually. But I said on my podcast that I will support Russia every day and twice on Sunday in what they're doing in Ukraine. And in March of 2022, The Guardian, CNN, MSNBC, they all picked it up and said, Joe, this podcaster, he is an enemy to the country and he's anti-American. And I look pretty smart 3 years later. I just want you to know.
The latest is people attacking the right isolationists. That's the new term that they started using this last 4 days. As soon as we attacked Iran, it was like, no, they're just the crazy right isolationists. Yeah. I mean, I think wanting to put America's interests first, wanting to have a country that's good for our children and our children's children is not being an isolationist. It's just saying, do we really need to get involved in international politics in the way that we have? Do we need to pick a side in this battle, or is it time to just say, you know what? Let's let them solve it themselves.
Yeah, sometimes you have to be the adult in the room, and we lack that. We lack that integrity. We lack that maturity that is necessary to lead. And by the way, that's a perfect symptom that I've been in other nations where the elections were stolen, where it was chaotic, like this. And I saw what happened in Venezuela. I studied what happened in Central and South America. I looked at what happened in many parts of Eastern Europe, into the Balkans, which is basically the wild, wild west. I'm a walking encyclopedia of information related to different communities or countries that I got involved in. And they all lead to retards running things when they don't have free and fair elections, because the people will symbiotically bring it back to a place where it settles into fertile land, so to speak. And when it doesn't, that means you have largely a government that thinks its people are slaves.
So, judges.
Yeah.
I mean,
Gideon 300. Judges 7. Bring it on. I can do this all day.
Yeah.
I believe the 40,000 to 10,000 that got down to 300, and the 300 that were able to defeat the 18,000. Like, when you start thinking about it, that's where we are. We are at a place right now. It's why I ran for governor, is that I'm going to lead from the front. I don't even care if I get taken out. I'll be with Jesus. I was never making it out of this life alive anyway. But I'll be damned if I'm going to let people in my community suffer and me not stand up and do the right thing and talk about truth. Galatians 4:16 says, am I the enemy because I tell you the truth? So I'm willing to take that bullet. I'm willing to stand up for my brothers and sisters because it's necessary.
So what's the message that you give to the everyday American in how they should not only look at the country, but what is their role in changing and shifting the outcome of what happens in the next 5 years?
You know, I have a meeting tonight at 6:30. It's a brotherhood meeting. And there's some felons in there, and there's some people in there that different walks of life. And there are going to be 60 guys there tonight. And we started this group and met in different places because we wanted to make sure that we were aligned under faith. And I think Christians are going to have to remember that we were meant to be hunters, not hunter. We were meant to stand together as men. It's going to take strong men to get us out of this place. We have been weak and apathetic. We have not stood up. We have not run for office. We have not taken on the positions of leadership, and we have not leaned into our brothers without self-gratification or self-interest. So if we can do that, if we can set aside our petty differences, if we can start acting like men, stop acting like boys, and we can stop letting society dictate the mores by which we have to operate, we'll be in a better place. But we have to set new ROEs, new rules of engagement that we're willing to have inside of our community, and we have to push back and basically say, listen, and by the way, it's not turn the other cheek. It is, you're wrong, you're evil, you're not going to do that anymore. And we keep negotiating. So when we get to that place where we can have strength, and strength is what we use in order to lead, I think you'll see a better outcome. So that's the one thing I will say for men is find your tribe. Find other guys you can stand next to. Find other men that you will be ideologically aligned with. Be authentic with them, and make sure that you're willing to bring the shovel.
So you find other men. You get into a group. And what does that group do?
Yeah, first of all, you figure out what the problem is in your community and you resolve it, right? You show up to, and this may sound bad, but you can evict people without violence. I could walk in there, take all that furniture, put it out in the drive. You can show up with 100 men to a school board meeting and you tell them, no, we're not negotiating with you. You live at 1275 Main Street. I said this the other day, and they're like, Oltmann calls for, mass intimidation. No, I call for goodness to overcome evil. I call for us to do what the Constitution tells us we have to do, which is to stand against tyranny, stand against people that would do evil to our children, stand against those people that are frankly trying to force their perversion onto us. We don't have to tolerate it, right? We don't have to tolerate it. So if you get 100 men together and you can build this fraternity, imagine how those fraternities will start to grow together. And you will start seeing the same thing that happened in 1773 when we started this battle. And again, when we started to push ourselves to a place where we have this kind of commitment to changing the outcome after the 2020 election. It's happening. We just got to get back to a place where we just recognize our focus.
And in our founding documents, if those in power do not uphold the Constitution, what are we allowed to do?
Overthrow them.
Overthrow them.
Yeah.
That's not an insurrection. That's a constitutional right.
But you have to do so. You have to do so with the theories of why you're doing it being real. No pride flags. Dads get together. They go take pride flags down. Cops show up at your house. Say, I'm going to arrest you for trespassing. 10 men should be there within 10 minutes. Battle rattled out. Right? They want to show up a SWAT. Great. I'm going to have 50 more guys. You want to make this a deal? We can make this a deal. But you start taking out good men that are trying to protect their children, and you see how quick you'll have fathers line up to protect them. J6 was a warning, a shot across the bow that we recognized what they did to us, and we were no longer going to tolerate it. But they picked us off one by one and had a chilling effect across America, right? And we decided that instead of banding together and saying, no, we're going to stand together as brothers and sisters, we separated, men moved into the basement, which means everyone's up to doing patriot things until you got to pay a patriot price.
Well, and that was hardly an insurrection or an attempt to overthrow the government, because if you got that many people that actually had a mission and a plan, there'd be nobody left in Congress on January 6th.
And we would have taken back over. We would have been done.
Yeah.
Right?
So, no, that was far from an insurrection. Nobody was trying to overthrow the government.
It was a redress of grievances is what it was.
Which is also our First Amendment right.
Yeah, 100%. But they've stripped that of us. Look, most people don't understand the Constitution. That's become a real problem.
How do we fix that? School boards?
Well, I don't think you can until you recapture education. I think that's going to be kind of step number one.
And I would agree with you.
Yeah. All right, brother. I got to get to this meeting.
Yep. Tell us quickly, how do we find more information on you? How do we find you online?
You go to Oltmann2026.com. That you can learn to be, for volunteering. You can donate to the campaign. I am a good steward of the capital that you put upon me. So whatever money's left, I'll make sure goes to where it should. A C3 that's actually doing good work. So there won't be any self-gratification. You'll never see me pay myself. None of that will actually happen. I will do things to honor the people that are willing to donate to us. Now, besides that, you can catch me on X at Joe Oltmann, JoeOltmann. You can catch me on Facebook, although I just got smacked around again by them. And you can catch me on any of the other socials as well. Truth Social, always a good place to hang out. Same thing, at Joe Oltmann.
Sounds good. Thank you for joining us, Joe.
All right, God bless you, brother.
Hey, God bless.